Hi everybody, and welcome to another webinar from Maduris and RJ Sanderson. Today we're talking about 7 steps post-COVID, 7 steps to recovery and success for you. It's a fantastic webinar and something that we all can gain something from. Joining me today and welcome is Joel Matthews. Welcome, Joel. Great to see you.
Thanks, Paul. You too.
For everybody at home, Joel is a senior financial advisor and been in the industry for over 13 years. So really looking forward to your insights. Young family, living in Melbourne, been through lockdown. Well done to you and the family, mate. So really looking forward to your insights about how our people at home can work together and looking for those real opportunities on their way out of COVID and into more free times. Before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who aren't currently clients and part of our larger family, a little bit about us. For RJ Sanderson, we've got 16 locations, 200 plus staff and 55,000 happy clients, predominantly across the east coast of Australia. These webinars, we get hundreds of people join us, so welcome today. And if we could just go to the next slide, Em, how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to keep so many people so happy? Very simply, we put you and our client base at the centre of everything we do, and then surround you with professionals and experts to achieve your lifestyle and financial goals. This service wheel gives a bit of a pictorial to that. We've been doing this for over 30 years. It's an award-winning client care service model and an advice model. But to find out a little bit more, please just feel free to reach out to any of the RJ Sanderson team. Very happy to help, and Joel's here to talk to us a bit about that today. Before we get into too much detail, we'll just cover off on the next slide the general disclaimer. Both Joel and I weren't here today. Today, everything we're talking about is very general in its nature. If it does seem like it's very personal and really aligns with you, that's fantastic. So it should, particularly with Joel's experience. He's helping people just like you every day, but also our client base helps us build these webinars. So for those of you who sent in data and details and questions prior, thank you very much. But please be aware that it is general in its nature today. And if you do want to discuss anything, please phone, email, text, reach out to any of the RJ Sanderson team, and we'll certainly book a time to go over this in a lot more detail and make this very personal for you. Thanks, Anne. So let's get stuck into today, Joel. I love this picture. Good future ahead. In other words, the road to recovery. Now, for me, that looks like a pretty straight road. What's the road really look like? What's your thoughts? What have we got ahead of us?
Yeah, so I guess as we know, life can always throw you a curveball. So the road of life is a winding road, but if we put a plan in place that's going to get us to where we want to get to, we can, over a long period of time, we can straighten out that road. And so when we look back, we say, okay, we actually got to where we wanted to get to in a relatively direct manner, even though there was twists and turns along the way.
Yeah, mate. So we're going to turn that around a bit. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that for those people with strategies and structures in place, even during downturn, no one knew a pandemic was coming. The road was less bumpy, more secure for those who had strategies in place?
Oh, absolutely. So if you don't have a plan in place, you'll be pushed to the left, pushed to the right, and you have nothing to center you back to where you're trying to get to. So you can be pushed off course, and it's very much like a rocket that's trying to get the right trajectory. If it's just taken off course a few degrees and it doesn't have a mechanism to self-correct, it will end up way away from where it needs to be. So really important to have that self-correcting mechanism, and that really through a strong financial plan and strategy and a trusted advisor to keep you on the right path. That's really the way to self-correct. And if you don't have that, you could find yourself in a position that you sort of think, well, how did I get here? I never meant to get here, but without that plan, I guess that's how I've drifted off.
And I know we've spoken about this a lot, and the team has as well. And sadly, often we see people towards the end of their working life and they haven't had that, and it's just not enough time to reach their goals. So important to get it done sooner rather than later. Is there any time frame to plans? Do you think if people sitting at home, when should they be addressing this?
There's no time like the present. So the sooner you take action, the sooner you'll lay down a path towards where you're trying to get to. And the sooner you do that, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, great. So, mate, I'm going to put it on you before we start. We've got 7 steps today. We're going to move at quite a good pace and share some good insights and stories. For those at home, what would you suggest they do today during this webinar?
Yeah, so I think as much as we're going to give you some really good information, none of it really means anything unless you take action. We can watch 100 webinars, we can hear all the good information, but unless we put it into practice, it's really just noise. So whatever you take out of today, just think the most important thing I can do, if any of this it sounds like good information, the most important thing I can do is actually get in contact with a financial planner through RJS Anderson, and let's actually put some action into place. That's really what's going to make the difference for you.
Yeah, mate, good work. Good taskmaster. I was going to challenge everyone to take good notes, but you're right. Action is really the key to making this success. Okay, Em, if we go to the next slide, please. Let's start with point number 1. Meet with a planner. Why is that so important? Why is that the first step, and why is that important for everybody at home?
So the first step is to really understand how you're going to develop a plan. So if you don't know what the process is, if you've never met with a planner before, or you've met with a planner but you never took action, then it's very difficult to put some steps in place. By having a discussion, there's a little bit of self-discovery there. You'll find that when you start to talk to us, you'll start to discover things that you didn't even realize you were trying to achieve. And sometimes it's that your partner was trying to achieve and you didn't know that that's what they were thinking. So you start to understand, well, okay, this is where I'm trying to get to. And then you then can progress to putting something in place.
Yeah. Mate, just leading back to your challenge for today, the first step is actually take action. You pick up the phone, drop an email to make an appointment with the planner. What are some of the hurdles or excuses you hear to stop people making that?
Yeah, I think a common one is, I'm not ready yet. When this happens or that happens, then I'll do it. But you can always find another thing that needs to happen. I'll just wait for Christmas and then I'll do it. I'll just wait for my next holiday and then I'll do it. I'll just wait for whatever it might be. Don't wait, get it started, because sometimes the process can be carried out over a number of meetings and a number of steps. And so just starting the process, even if you can get things happening in the background, we might be doing work for you, and then you can, go on a holiday or focus on Christmas and do all that sort of stuff. And then when we come back for our next meeting, we've actually progressed. And so a lot of the work is what we do in the background for you. But you've got to initiate that work. You've actually got to get in front of us and you've got to say, yes, I'm ready to do something, and then we can help you. So
you're not a scary bloke. It's not a scary experience. And in fact, you can guide them through it. So do they need to prepare? What should they, and when they're finding a planner, how should they prepare and what questions should they come with?
Yeah, I think don't let preparation stop you from starting the meeting. That would be the key. You can always be preparing, you could always do more, but the fact of the matter is, through our meetings, even if it's just an initial meeting, we will give you things to think about, and that can just be a trigger then to come back for another meeting when you have thought more deeply about those things. And sometimes you don't even know what you're not thinking about or what you should be thinking about. So have a meeting with us. We'll tell you the types of things that you need to focus on, and then you can go away, do your thinking, have your conversations with your partner, and then come back and we can have a more focused meeting. But the very fact that we've met the first time means we've started the ball rolling, and away we go. And you'll be surprised at how focused you can become once you're pointed in the right direction about the things you need to think about.
Yeah, a bit of support and structure always helps, doesn't it? But that leads really nicely into point 2. And I think people can prepare or get themselves stuck on this one as well. But with some guidance, it's really determining where you want to go and being on the same page. In other words, goals. Can you talk to me a bit about why this is important and how people can start to develop that at home as well?
Yep. So we always, in financial planning, we always start with the end in mind. And that's, you get to design what your future looks like if you take the time to do it. It's the same way that if a movie writer is going to write a movie script, they don't just go through without actually knowing how it's going to end. They know how it's going to end and they work their way back. It's very much the same. We want to know, where do you want to get to? What are you trying to achieve? Is it to retire at a certain age with a certain amount of money? Is it to be able to spend more time with family? Is it to work less or work in a way that suits your lifestyle better? Whatever it is, once we know, we can start to work towards it. So it's so important to do that. And some of that is some of the thinking that you'll do after we have our appointment. If you don't already have those things in mind, we're going to guide you about that and say, that's what you need to come up with. And you'll go away, you'll talk together, you'll come back with that, and then we can start working with the end in mind.
Yeah, correct. And I think you shared this with me in the past. The key to getting this right is be on the same page. Put a time frame and a dollar value to them as well when you're getting those goals and making sure that everyone's aware.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Let's move on to point number 3. This is a good one for business owners, for mums and dads, for everybody sitting at home. What did you learn from COVID? Or what did you learn during lockdown? Obviously, much different or much harsher lockdowns in Victoria. Absolutely acknowledge that. But I think across Australia, across the globe, but certainly across Australia, we've learned a whole lot during lockdown. What do you want people to be thinking about here as they're starting to plan on their way out, Joel?
So hopefully there's 2 key learnings that came out of lockdown. The first one is about the ability to have the time to do things when you can work remotely. So if you can use Zoom, or if you can get on the phone and you're happy to meet that way, then the barrier to meeting with a planner in the past might have been, well, I don't have time, or I'm too busy at work, I work in the city, I can't actually get to a meeting. You can do a meeting from the comfort of your home. And that's become now a really acceptable way of doing business now, I think, across the board. So that takes down one of the barriers about, I don't have the time to have this meeting. The other one is, what's changed with your spending habits? A lot of us have realised that we're not doing as much as we were before, and then we're realising how much money we were spending on those things. And it's not to say that we don't want to do all those things, because they're great and they're fun, but it just lets us say, well, okay, if I did some of those things that I really valued and others that I didn't really need to do, and that could give me a better future, would I make different decisions?
Yeah. I think we're certainly more aware of where our money's going. Something that I'm speaking to lots of clients about is, and learning from lockdown, is the little things count. The little things matter a lot. And when you put that into your financial and personal life, it's and represent that, in the work you do, it really does extrapolate or compound on. So yeah, certainly some learnings there, some technology upgrades, and better ways of doing business are all things that I'm hearing as well. Okay. Now, Matt, point number 4 is probably a reflective point, and it speaks to preparing before they come in also, but it's where you guide them. Have a clear understanding of where you are. Obviously in your lifestyle, in your personal and professional career, and in your goal attainment. How do you talk to people about this, and why is it so important to be really, really clear on this point?
Yeah. So to give you tailored, personal, specific advice, it's really important that we know exactly where you are. And so we work with you to achieve that. We will research your existing situation. We'll work with you to put a budget together. We will help you understand exactly where you're at. And from there, that's our launch pad for getting to where we want to get to. So it's so important to know where we're at so that we can help you get to where you want to get to.
Yeah, address the gap, and then make the next step. Absolutely. Which leads into point 5. So from here, we met with the planner. Could we just go back a slide, please, Anne? You're too quick for me. Thank you. Met with the planner. We determined where we want to go. We're on the same page. We put timeframes and costings to them. We shared it with our partners and significant others, so we're all in agreement. We've understood what we've learned and how we can make a difference coming out of lockdown, because it's we should never waste a good crisis, is the old saying. So there are things we can all take from it, and we have a really clear understanding of where we want to go. And if we've met with the planner, we'll also know at this stage, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, that if there is a gap, we'll have some ideas and strategies around how we can start to address those.
Yeah, absolutely. So once we know where you want to get to and where you are, we can identify gaps, and we can say, what are the things that we could do in your situation not just that anyone would do, because your situation's unique. Your goals are unique. Your tax position's unique. Your income position is unique. So what works for you and what's going to get you, that's achievable, that's going to get you to where you want to get to, and what are the most effective levers that we can pull in your situation to make sure that instead of just not doing anything, and that where that's going to get you, if we pull those right levers and we calibrate your financial position to get you to where you want to get to, let's look at the difference that's going to make. And you'll be amazed a lot of the time over a period of time how much difference what might seem to be relatively small changes can actually make to your future. And it's not just on the way to retirement, it's then into and through retirement as well. So we can often be talking about a much longer time frame than you might have anticipated. If you were 10 years out from retirement, we might be talking about a 40-year time frame, because we're talking 10 years to retirement and then 30 years in retirement. So really, really important changes that can be made and can completely change your financial outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to the exciting part. Next, if we go to the next slide, please. This is where the rubber hits the road and we really start to invest in what we're going to find out is develop a plan. What happens here, Joel? I'm excited this part because you start to see stuff, but what happens from your end for clients at this stage?
So once we've worked out exactly where you're trying to get to and where you are, this is where we really roll our sleeves up and get into the strategy work. And this is where all our experience and expertise comes to the fore. We say, okay, we've seen this sort of situation 100 times or 200 times. Let's tailor it now to the individual, but let's say, okay, we've seen this movie, we know how it ends. So let's adjust it. Let's make the right decisions to get you exactly where you want to get to. We will do that through a series of meetings, sometimes with other planners. We will do detailed strategy work. We will do research. We will develop for you the best possible scenario that can get you to where you want to get to, and we will put that all into writing so that when we come back and present you with that plan, you've got a roadmap for success. So you've got a tangible, step-by-step here in front of you in black and white. Here's what I need to do.
Yeah. What a powerful position to make educated choices or educated decisions from. So not only will that compound your benefits in the future, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that will stop you, as you said, going off track, but making incorrect decisions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the blueprint to get you where you want to get to. The only thing then to do is to execute on it.
Yeah, which brings us to step number 6, implement the strategies from the plan. And I know we've spoken a lot about this across the group. These two stages, 5 and 6, is often where clients get confused between a goal or a product and the strategy, two really significantly different approaches. But implementing the strategies is where your advice really does start to come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Strategy is always the most important. A product is only ever a tool to implement the strategy. So the strategy is key, and the strategy takes into account all kinds of things. It takes into account tax. It takes into account the amount of time you've got, the way that you're comfortable with investing with our guidance. It takes into account spreading and minimising risk, and making sure that you're put in a position where you've got the best chance of being successful. But if something goes wrong, your risk is minimised. So it's really about saying, okay, how do we put all these steps in place? And a lot of it is us doing a lot of the hard work, and it's really keeping you accountable and just checking in with you and saying, okay, here's what we're doing. We're at step 3. We need simply a signature or something from you, and we're on to step 4. We're on to step 5, and before you know it, we've implemented the entire plan. You try and do that yourself, and we all get busy. We've all got things to do. If you've got a dedicated team working to put that strategy in place for you, all the hard work's done, and you'll find yourself all of a sudden in a far better financial position and on the right track.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And mate, finishing, the final point is where you actually started in our introduction. I believe you talked about auto correction and staying on track. This is the regular review process.
Absolutely. So throughout life, things are going to change. Your goals might change. Your circumstances might change. Things are going to happen in life that you can't predict. But one thing that's going to stay constant is us being there to help you along the way. So whatever that looks like, by regularly reviewing your position, we can say, okay, we've slightly changed our circumstance. How do we get back on track and make sure our goal is achieved? It's a real, I suppose, a real powerful part of the process, because that's what makes sure you get there. It's not just a set and forget. We did a plan and let's come back in 5 years. It's let's constantly review it so we make sure we stay on track and continue to enhance the plan and maximise opportunities. If legislation changes, if there's opportunities that become available to you, let's take advantage of that and let's really maximise your position.
Absolutely. It's certainly not a set and forget. It's a living, breathing document, just like this. Yeah. So I find the review meetings are a chance to re-engage and re-energise our inner goals as well. I think they're a great chance to continue to drive for those outcomes. So, mate, that's a great, really quick rundown. Thank you very much. We've covered off 7 steps for what we can be doing at home. We do have a couple of questions that were submitted prior. If you don't mind, I'll just throw a couple to you now.
Yeah, absolutely.
One that comes in often whenever we have webinars, where and how's the best way to invest? Probably a bit of an open-ended one for today, but it's come through, so we'll address it.
Yeah, so the best way to invest is the way that's going to get you to where you want to get to from a goals perspective with the least amount of risk of failure. So it's really going to be what's right for you. What's the investment that's going to mean that you understand it? That means you've got a realistic chance of achieving your goal, and the one that's been tailored for you. So there is no one size fits all. That's why it's so important to take into account your situation when choosing an investment, or else it would just be the same for everyone, and it isn't.
So the butcher or the mate at the pub is not the place to look for advice?
No, unless you want to know what a good steak is, or what's happening on the weekend, then go to those guys. But if you want to know how your financial future is going to get sorted, then talk to a professional. Yeah,
good point. Mate, I've got a question here from some self-funded retirees. What should self-funded retirees be doing?
Yeah, I think it's so important in retirement to be invested appropriately and to have a specific plan for retirement. When you're in retirement, you've typically got more money than you've ever had. And so it's so much more important. If you invest appropriately, you'll typically generate 60% of your wealth in retirement. And so that can be really powerful, but also if you don't get it right, that can cause significant issues for you and your family. So it's so important in retirement to seek advice and to have a tailored strategy and to be aware that things aren't always going to go in a straight line. So as markets go up and down, as they always have and always will, what's your plan to navigate that, to make sure that you never have to alter your retirement because you didn't have a plan in place to navigate that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And the self-funded retirees that I speak to, they often talk about the review process being the most relevant part of how they're engaging with their advisor now, because they want to see that. But I think for those who are sitting at home, and we all want to be self-funded, that should be a number one aim of all of ours. I think the biggest to get there is to start early and start a plan and start thinking about it well in advance, because there's lots of ways to go. Also for self-funded retirees, just so we know, just so everyone knows, there's a lot of, well, for every client and people who want to jump on our webpage, there's an enormous amount of information available. But for self-funded retirees, there's also a new blog that's been released that gives some specific details about things that you can be doing. If you can't find that, please, again, reach out to us at RJS. Everybody here is here to help, and we have an enormous amount of resources available to us. Joel, to finish off with, could I have in 10 words or less, what should we be doing at home? What can people be thinking about right now to address those 7 steps and make it a reality?
Yep. book an appointment with a financial advisor. That's the key. That will, you could try do all the other prep and all the other sort of thinking and pondering. None of it's going to matter unless you take action and book an appointment. We will help you with that process.
Exactly. Yeah. We talk about this a lot. As a famous quote, success won't come to you. You'll have to go to it.
Yep.
I think if you want to be successful, get in touch. I think that's great. Joel, thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing your insights. I very much appreciate it. To everybody at home, thank you all for joining us. Please be well aware that everybody has joined in this webinar today will get post communications. There'll be lots of information and links to more data. But be aware, everybody online today gets a complimentary meeting with one of the RJS team. So please feel free to reach out. It is a full-scale wealth advice business. We do accounting, we do structure, and we do wealth, estate planning, finance. As I said before, we put you at the centre of everything that you do, and then surround you with the appropriate professionals. So please take the chance to reach out and say hi. Em, thank you for your help behind the scenes. And Joel and everybody else online, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.